Hi cookie friends, welcome back to Late's Camera Cookies. Today we are going to be making the cutest, sweetest baby shower set. Look at how cute this is. So this was actually for a real order that a client had asked for. So I had made separate cookies to film this tutorial with that were not part of her order. And I wanted to do that to showcase how you can make these as well. They might look very complicated or a little bit intimidating, but they are pretty easy as long as you get the right techniques, and that's what I would like to help you do today. So we are going to be making a bottle, a onesie, a rattle, and a plaque cookie that says baby in bloom, or you could of course make it say whatever you would like. And as always, you can change the colors, you can use your own creative spin, but I would love to give you some step-by-step tutorials and tips and tricks on how to make these cookies yourself. So let's get started with the onesie cookie. All right, so we've got a little onesie here, and I make all of my cookies with a glaze icing as opposed to a royal icing. Glaze icing's base is corn syrup. I know, not super healthy, but we're talking about cookies here. The base is corn syrup. It doesn't harden as hard as royal icing. Royal icing's base is usually egg whites or meringue powder. I do prefer the taste of glaze icing, so that's what I work with. So I outlined the onesie with my glaze icing. And you want to outline the cookie because as you come in and do this next step, which is called flooding the cookie, without that outline, you run the risk of this icing just falling right over the side. So you have to have some kind of barrier line or flood lines. That's what we did here. The piping bags that I use, I purchase on Amazon. You get a ton of them for a very uh, small amount of money. I don't know if you might get 100 or 200 for $14. So that is quite a deal for me. So I do buy them on Amazon. I used to put tips in my bags. I used to use a coupler with tips. I stopped doing that except for, certain things like when I'm making flowers or leaves, I'll use one of those metal tips. But this has just become easier, more manageable. My bag, the tip sometimes would clog, take it out and get the clog out. This is just easy, much easier. So when I fill the cookie, I do cut the tip of the bag a little bit bigger so I can get that easy fill. And when you're filling, you just want to go side to side, almost like a printer would print out an image. So that's what I'm doing here. So you outline the cookie. You might have seen that I outlined it again with a bit of a thicker line, and now I'm just gonna go in like a printer, go side to side, meet that thicker line, and get this cookie all filled. So, you know how we see on like Instagram or TikTok, these cookies get filled within 5 seconds? It takes like a good minute or two to actually get a proper fill. So that's what we did here. This is real time. All right, so I let this dry for a full 24 hours because I was gonna come in and paint. And I know that painting might seem a little bit intimidating, but it totally isn't. You just need your food safe paint brushes, and I use gel food coloring and I dilute that with vodka. The alcohol does evaporate. You don't have alcoholic cookies. It's just a way to dilute your gel without eating away at the sugar. So if I were to use gel food coloring and water, my sugar would start to get eaten away at. So that's why you want to use an extract or even, I'm sorry, an alcohol or an extract like vanilla or almond extract, whatever it is that you choose. So all I do, I have a little palette and I use a little dropper and I put little drops of the liquid in there and I scoop out some gel food coloring with a toothpick and I mix that all in. And you can see this is not a masterpiece. I just did some swirls, really. That's all it was, some swirls, and I'm just brushing on some lines here to give that illusion of flowers. So once I have everything placed, well, that's right, I wanted to do some over here too. And this is like totally up to you. I didn't reference anything. I wasn't copying this after a real onesie. I just whatever I thought was cute. I also suggest if you are going to start painting on cookies that you get some different brushes. So like that's a really thin brush. I got that from Michael's. You should get some thicker ones, some watercolor brushes, anything that's food safe. And also, you know, it can say food safe on the packaging, or you just want to make sure that these paintbrushes have no chemicals on them and you are only using them for cookies and that you never use these paintbrushes for anything else. All right, so now I've got some green because I wanted to make some leaves. And we've got some, see, this does, this takes a long time. It's funny when I post these on Instagram or TikTok, they're done in seconds. Um, okay, looks like I stopped doing the leaves here because, okay, I went in and I diluted that paintbrush. I saturated the paintbrush with more liquid. And then you see how I just kind of blended that all together? I kept going in that spiral motion and blended it because I'm trying to make it look like rosettes. And I think, you know, that did a pretty good job right there. And then you put the leaves on it, and then you have nice rose pattern. Nothing crazy fancy here. I'm sure an art student would just be picking this apart. I know I'm not a watercolor artist, but this is what I did on the cookies, and I think that it came out really good. So this is all to say you can do this too. I'm not a watercolor trained artist or a trained artist at all, really. Everything I've done, I've learned from watching videos or reading up on it. So you can do this too, absolutely. All right, so now I'm gonna get ready to outline this cookie. Now this icing is much stiffer than what I filled the cookie with. To make it stiffer, you want to add powdered sugar. If that is too difficult to pipe out of the bag, you can add some Crisco in there to make it a little bit easier to actually get out of the piping bag. I had a really thin hole in this piping bag because I wanted the most delicate piping I could possibly do here. All right, so I made all those little classic lines that you would find on a onesie, and this is pretty much going to finish it. This is such a cute little onesie here, and you can absolutely make this, and I hope you enjoyed watching how this one was made. You're gonna let that dry overnight, and it'll come out super great the next morning. All right, here we've got our bottle. I love this cookie cutter. This cookie cutter is just so cute. It's almost like a cartoon bottle. I think it's adorable. So we're gonna start with our outline so that way we can outline the cookie and then come back in and flood that without any of the icing pouring over the sides. So I'm gonna do the top of the bottle first. And I know right in the middle there, that's where, you know, that the plastic part would normally go on a bottle. So I'm gonna outline this, and I love the shape of this bottle, so I am going to stick to the outline that the cookie cutter created. I'm gonna follow those curves. All right, gonna connect it right back to where I started. And now we're gonna start to flood the cookie again. If you notice my icing came out super white here, I want to give you some tips on how you can get that super white icing. Number one is to use an icing food coloring. It comes in white. Wilton has a brand. There's a few other brands. It's very easy to find. Amazon, Hobby Lobby, Michaels, they all have something like this. And you just add a few drops into your icing, and it just helps to really brighten your white. Another thing to do is if you're using an extract, like vanilla extract, you would want to get a clear vanilla extract. If you put in regular vanilla extract, you are going to run the risk of tinting your icing the tiniest bit, so it's not like as bright as it could be. And I really wanted to make sure that I had this beautiful bright white icing, so you can use that food coloring, and you also would like to use a clear extract. All right, so I'm just gonna speed this up a little bit for you. Okay, we're just gonna go 2 times the speed here. That white icing is also a really good investment to have, the white food coloring, because you can also add that to any other color that you make, and it just kind of dulls it or makes it a little bit more pastel or lightens it. So I really do like that white food coloring. All right, so now we've got this bottle. It was dried overnight because I knew I wanted to come in with this really pretty pink. Um, and I didn't want it to bleed into the white. So let's just say that I didn't let this dry with a proper amount of time and I came right in to do this pink, I'm running the risk now of colors bleeding into the white and having it not be super crisp and clean. So you definitely want to make sure when icing is going to touch, and they're two different colors, that you do give enough time so that way you don't run into icing bleed. I mean, sometimes that happens depending on the humidity, depending on how much dye you actually saturated your icing with. So there's other factors, but definitely having this dry time in between will help to mitigate those factors or help to, really make this a nice clean cookie. All right, so we're going to fill in this pink. This pink, I dyed a few colors. I started with a base of pink. I added a little bit of purple, a little bit of red. I got this really pretty color. I was so happy. That is the color that the client had asked for. She actually sent me her invitations and I tried to match it as best as I possibly could. All right, so this is like the ridges on the plastic part of a bottle. I did more of like a cartoonish style, and I just did this zigzaggy motion with my thicker icing. And you know it's thicker because it's not spreading, right? It is thick, it is keeping the shape that I intended. And now this is the bottle marking. And again, you see that that's very thick, nice, sturdy icing. Okay, perfect. So far, this bottle is my favorite, and it is looking so cute. All right, so now I have a star tip, and I stiffened my icing with powdered sugar and Crisco. And you see, it was a very simple, this is a very easy thing to do as long as you have the right consistency icing. You just go in that circular motion and you've got the cutest rosette. And I also stiffened my green icing with Crisco and powdered sugar and with a leaf tip. And I was able to make the cutest leaves. Like that made the entire thing. I think that's adorable. All right, perfect. On to the next one. The rattle. Okay, maybe I lied. Maybe this one's my favorite. I'm not sure. It is such a cute cookie cutter. So, one thing with these cookie cutters, um, that rattle handle is a little bit on the thinner side. So, whenever I bake these, I do like to bake these a little bit thicker just to give some more strength and stability to the actual cookie. I'm going to come in here and make a thin rectangle, which will be the handle for the rattle. And I wasn't quite happy with that shape that I made, so I'm using my scribe tool. You like a tool like this, or you can use a toothpick or anything with that's food safe and has a point that you can smooth out and fix the icing. I let that dry overnight, and then I'm going to come in with that really pretty pink, and I'm going to make the handle. Now, you didn't have to let this dry for 24 hours. I just was doing a bunch of these cookies and I let it dry with the rest of everything. But I would think that if you needed to get this done a little bit quicker, at least give it an hour before you start touching one icing color to another. And look at this really pretty teal. I thought this teal was just so pretty. What did I do to mix this? I believe I started with a light blue. I added the tiniest bit of yellow, tiny bit more of a dark blue. I got this really pretty teal. I was just really happy with this color. I always have a color wheel handy. Like I said, I'm not a trained artist. I need the color wheel in front of me at all times to figure out which colors I need to add. So that's also a good tip. Really start to get to know your color wheel because you don't always have to buy specific color icings. Like if somebody has an order or you want to try to match invitation colors, you don't always have to go out and purchase a specific teal. You can dye it yourself. It just takes a little bit of practice and really understanding the color wheel. So I always have the color wheel ready on my phone. All right, so I'm coming in and I'm gonna flood the rest of this. Now, you might be asking, like, why don't you snip the end of that piping bag and make it a little bit bigger so the icing can come out easier? The icing is a really good consistency, so I'm not like straining my hand here to push it out. Sometimes when you have a smaller tip at the end, it reduces the possibility of bubbles that could form. So it almost like pops the bubbles as it's coming out of the small tip of the hole. So And look how clean it comes in. I don't really need my scribe tool to come in and push anything or pop any bubbles. It comes out really nice. Takes a lot of patience, sometimes to fill, but it is worth it when you can take your time. All right, so we almost have a finished product here. I'm gonna make, my design was just 2 lines for the rattle. I let that dry overnight again. And then I wanna make a rosette to keep with the consistency of the rest of the set. I wanted to make sure that a flower was incorporated in every design. All right, so now I've got that leaf tip again with my stiffened royal icing, and I'm holding it, you can see, not flat, but up and down. And then you just come in, you squeeze it out and pull away. And as long as your consistency icing is right, you've got really cute leaves. And that is such a cute cookie. So cute. So far, which one's your favorite? I might say the rattle's my favorite so far. I'll probably change my mind. I'm not sure. All right, here we go. I believe this is our last one. This plaque cookie cutter is one of my favorites. It's super versatile. You can just use it for anything. I think I've used it a lot for weddings. It's also more of like a trendy shape. So it's not just like a rectangle, you've got something fun going on here. So I outlined that, and I'm just gonna speed this up for you a little bit. This fill, it's the same idea. You outline it, and then you go ahead and you start to fill. I do start with a thicker, I outline it once, and then I come back in with a thicker line. I don't always have to touch it to the edge, but I do the thicker line so that way when I start to fill, I'm going back and forth in this printer-like motion, and I'm just trying to get that thicker line now to touch the thinner line, and that usually helps. All right, so gonna go back and forth like a printer motion. You're gonna see like the tip of the bag, I wiggle it a little bit to try to get that icing to touch the ends, so that way there's no gaps. If there are any gaps, I'll come back in with my scribe tool and just push that icing all the way to the end. Is that not the cutest scribe tool? I got that from Etsy. It's adorable. I will link it below if it is still available. It is so cute. All right, so now that is all set. I let that set overnight, 24 hours. Now I use a projector, and this is my own handwriting, so this is the sketch that I gave the client. I wrote out Baby in Bloom in my own made up font that I had. I put that on the computer, and I wanted to make sure that I traced it perfectly. I've said this before. I used to think that using a projector was like cheating, or it meant that I wasn't good enough to create consistent designs. But no, when I have to make 50 of these, I want to make sure that it comes out the same way each and every time. So this icing was strengthened with powdered sugar and Crisco. And I know it's not 100% in focus right here, so I'm sorry about that. I'm still trying to work out some kinks with my camera here. But this icing is it's nice and stiff. When I pipe it out, it's not spreading, and it's called like pressure piping. So you're gonna add pressure, 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 let it go. Pressure, 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 let it go. The key to doing this right is really having that correct icing consistency. That's like half the battle. If you've got the correct icing consistency, then you're pretty much good to go. And then, I use my projector, plugged that right into my computer, got the image up that I drew, was able to project that right onto the cookie, and I felt really confident that I was going to produce something that my client would like. Now, if you saw, I went right back over that bead because I wanted to make it a little bit thicker, and I was able to do that. All right, here's the pink. So I have Baby in Bloom. I also think it's fun when you use different fonts. So I use, that it's made up font, I drew it, but I use more like that script, and then the IN was like very plain, I guess. I like doing different fonts. All right, so now I'm going to come in and outline this cookie. In the final design of this cookie set, I had some outlined in this teal, and then I had some outlined in the pink. I think it's also fun to change up, as long as your client is happy with it. I think it's fun to change up a few things, so it's the same cookie, but some were teal and some were pink. Okay, and because my hand was more in focus there than anything else, I just fast forwarded that, and I made another rosette. Again, this is that star tip, And as long as your consistency is correct, you just make a circle with that. It comes out beautiful, like this beautiful little rosette. See, I just squeeze, circle, let it go. And then I know you can't see it too well here, but you're gonna squeeze, circle, and then let it go. It's a really pretty piece. You can also make these in advance. You can pipe these out on a wax paper and let them dry overnight, and then you can actually, peel them off the paper, and then you can stick them on the cookie afterwards. All right, so now I want to get these leaves in here. Push, 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 let it go. I'm gonna turn it just to make it easier for myself. Push, 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 let it go. That's what I say to myself also when I'm decorating it. Push, 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 let it go. And there's also no right or wrong amount, how many leaves you want, how many flowers you want, as long as it makes sense and it looks nice, it looks aesthetically pleasing. And I think I achieved that here. Very, very pretty. Very nicely done. All right, so let's see the finished product. Yes. Oh, and that's how it looks with that pink outline. I was really happy with how these came out, and thankfully so was my client. And here's a look at all of the cookies. Please let me know which one was your favorite. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to help you. If you're gonna make these, let me know how they turned out. And I look forward to doing this with you next time, cookie friends. Bye!